I think I'm basically going to be summarising everyone's work really, because everyone's really covered just about everything we do together anyway as a team. So we started off, I guess, about 2007 using what we used to call then, the just-in-time teaching, or the JIT, to flip the class, which we didn't really know that's what the term that was used then. We basically moved from JIT, and then we thought, people were sort of bored with that name, so then we changed it to EPEL to stand for Effective Pre-Lecture Engagement. But now we sort of changed it again to ELECT, because we think really what we do is not just flipping the classroom, but that the classroom that we flip is really the foundation that we sort of set for the scaffolded curriculum. So we now call it ELECT, which is using experiential learning cycles and technology. So just a quick overview of the session. I think it's really important that we prepare students for any type of educational pedagogy that we're going to be introducing. So we'll show you how we do that, particularly in preparing them for these experiential learning cycles. We are going to base, or I'm going to base this presentation on just the simple technologies that we use. We started off initially in 2007 using the Articulate Studio then, which was a very sophisticated program for us who had absolutely no idea how to use technology. And we did 2 modules that year. And now we've sort of become pretty good at using Articulate, but even better, just using the good old simple technology that we started off with. And really having a look at the experiential learning cycle and using the flipped classroom, we'll just quickly go through how we embed feedback mechanisms as well, and then how we use the research skills framework to also assess the summative components of our classes. We teach in the Bachelor of Oral Health. We mainly focus with first years, and I'm always using the we, because as Denise said, it is a team approach here, and it's not just Kathy and myself, but we have colleagues like Mario and Eleanor Pierce across disciplines that we work together with. We focused on human biology, and the reason why we did that is because a lot of our students that come into the course are either straight from school that have done biology, others have completed a health science degree, and then others are coming back after a long break from study who have never covered biology at all. So we almost have the same difficulty with the chemistry colleagues that, we have students in that have got no idea of biology. So this is why we decided to start using the flipped classroom. The 2 main pedagogical frameworks that we use for this model is the experiential learning cycles, where learning is really based on the experiences that we provide students, and it almost starts off in a cyclical manner, and students come in and out of the cycle at different stages as they progress through the course. And of course, the research skills development framework that's been developed by our colleague John Willison, we use very much so to develop our assessment criteria for each summative assessment stage. So to begin with, we use our social learning tools, and I'll just concentrate mainly on the blogs we've been using. But first of all, how do we set up this community of practice with our students? And it starts way in O Week, about day 3, where we get students to work in small groups in a cafe, in a university cafe, and think about what they expect from the course, the type of values that they're going to, underpin their community, and they have to come up with a conceptual poster that they then have to come back to class and present. And in a way, we're sort of setting the culture of how we're all going to work together as a team, as well as, they're setting their group norms of how they're going to work together. We also do an induction session on the blended learning tools, or the social learning tools that we use, and we show them exemplars of students' work right from day 1, so they've got some type of an idea. What we do next is set up a block, and we call it BOHONI, which is BOH1 students, and we started it, I think, in 2008 the first time, so now we're up to 2013. And we upload those posters with a little bit of a comment underneath, and then students have to go in and just comment on each other's posters. How do we sustain the learning community? We start with, our first feedback cycle, where we start off with the posters. We then start to upload posters that they've developed in some of their classes, and we ask them to comment on each other's. And then by the end of semester 1, we're using the blog for students to actually workshop some practice test questions before their first exam. And then we get to the point where they're actually formulating their own questions on the practice test questions as well. So they can see that if they work on that blog, that they will be preparing themselves for assessment. So there always has to be a purpose to whatever tool you're using, and students need to be able to see that purpose. Now, from there, we start using the flipped classroom, but what I thought I'd do is show you an example of how we flip when we don't have much time to sit there making a Mario-type articulate program. So we just use good old PowerPoint, and by here, we develop what we call a self-study module. And we never sort of have these modules any more than about 15 minutes worth of home time for the students to use. It has to be quick, short, sharp, interactive. And this is where I guess we introduce them mainly to the concrete and reflective stage of learning. So they have a few little instructions on how to use the module. And, for this one here, it's just based on a series of videos that we've harnessed from YouTube. There's some amazing, very short videos on biological concepts that are out there now that are actually very, very good. So we don't always have to produce our own, which we do anyway. And then after each video, they'll have a link to what we call a checkpoint so that they'll have to answer some key questions. And these modules are really based on just the key foundational knowledge that they need to know so that when they all come to class, they're working from the same platform of knowledge. So we don't have some that are more advanced than others. So very quickly, we just give them the links and we give them, the couple of videos to watch, and then they will take them to their second feedback cycle, which is checkpoint 1. So the blog gives them their initial feedback, and now once they start using these interactive learning modules, they then start to get their own feedback at home as to whether or not they're understanding the videos that they're watching. So then from there, they come to class, and we always spend the first 15 minutes going through the questions or the checkpoints that they did for homework. And we'll use some exemplars of some of the anonymous exemplars, of course. And then we might just go in and just maybe make some adjustments. And if there's anything that I've picked up that they perhaps didn't understand, I might find another video that might sort of represent that concept a little bit better. Once we've gone through the checkpoints, they then have to move on to a group activity where they're each given, for this one here we're using cell structure and the cellular organelles. They each have to go off in small groups and draw up a conceptual poster that will help them understand their particular cell structure a little bit better. So for instance, you can see the group that had to work a conceptual poster on the cytoplasm, which is basically the gel-like matter that keeps the cell together. They compare that to a bowl of jelly and all the different fruits in there. So once they've developed their poster, they then have to come back, instruct one another, and then just to make sure that they understand the different structures, we then get them to do a matching item exercise again. So they break up into their small groups, and then they're given unlabelled cells, and they have to almost just match up which cell they think is a granular releasing pancreatic cell that they've never come across, but based on the type of organelles that are present in the unlabelled diagram, hopefully they can make that connection. So by now, they're starting to experiment with the knowledge and starting to apply a little bit further. So up until now, they've really received formative feedback, and from there, we move into the first post-class activity, which is a case-based scenario. So we're trying to incorporate an authentic case study of how radiation affects cellular biology. So that's an independent summative assessment where they'll have a folder on My Uni with the rubric, assessment criteria and everything they need. From there, then they will move on to, and this is by semester 2, where they'll do a group research project where they need to sort of take that knowledge even further and basically look at a particular area that's related to oral health practice, and then develop, hopefully, a beautiful poster in the end that they have to produce and present in a simulated academic forum. So they started off with a basic cell, and now they're taking it right out to, how did this relate to me in practice as an oral health practitioner? We use the rubric, the research skills rubric, where we give it to them right at the start of the summative assessment, and that almost forms the roadmap of their assessment approach. Then what we always do is use Gilly Salmon's 5-stage model of how to basically almost benchmark the learning tool that you use to make sure that it is of quality approach and that students will engage and will use it. So in the breakout session, we've got an activity that we've sort of set up, but we're more than happy to scrap that and just have a question and answer. So we'll just wait to determine how to do it. Thank you.